pondering about what to choose as a career, most students face a dilemma of whether to go to a corporate world, that is, to sit for a SPO intern at IITK, or to opt for research and do research internships. To clear out your doubts about making a wise choice, we have invited experienced speakers from the Y17 batch. I am sure their valuable experiences and guidance will be quite insightful. Let's start with a brief introduction of our speakers.
Firstly, with us we have Medha Agarwal. Medha Agarwal is a senior undergraduate in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics. She has pursued research in statistics for 2 years, exploring topics like sampling and optimization. She has worked as a research scholar at Duke University for a summer, and she has also collaborated with a faculty researcher from the University of Edinburgh on problems in sampling. She will be joining the University of Washington in Seattle for her PhD in statistics this fall.
Now, next up, we have with us Anish Saxena. He is a senior undergraduate in mechanical engineering. His research interests include computer systems and architecture. Anish pursued internships at CAR 3S Group in 2019, at Intel Processor Architecture Research Lab in 2020, and is currently a summer intern at NVIDIA's High Performance Computing Division. He co-leads a project on mobile architectures in affiliation with Qualcomm Research. Anish will begin his PhD in computer science at the Georgia Institute of Technology this fall.
Next up, we have Nikunj Kothari. Nikunj Kothari is a final year undergraduate in electrical engineering. He has done 3 internships during his stay at IIT Kanpur, with all 3 being in different domains. He was a research intern at IIM Ahmedabad and secured an FMCG intern through ITC through SPO. He is currently working as a product management intern at Cred, which is a fintech startup. He will be joining one of the most renowned management consulting firms, BCG, this year as an associate consultant.
Next up, we would like to invite Suyar Singh. He is a final year undergraduate in the mechanical department. He interned at ITC Limited as a technical intern last summer. He has further worked with the printing and packaging business division at ITC for business-wide project implementation. He secured a PPO therein and will be joining ITC Limited this year. He has also been working as a student research associate in the Machine Tool Dynamics Lab at IITK for the last 2 years.
Okay, then without any further ado, let's start with some specific questions for our speakers. So the first set of questions are for Medha. Medha, people usually have this assumption that research is not rewarding. They believe that it is better to go for a corporate job as it will give you better financial stability. And people say that in research, you need a lot of money in the initial stages, like higher studies, etc. So what are your thoughts about it? And did you have any such questions in your head when you chose research?
First of all, the definition of what rewarding is kind of very subjective. So, for example, I am a person who finds the experience of doing some innovative research and then getting it published in a paper and all of that stuff very rewarding. For someone else, making a product that gets into the market for people to use, that might be rewarding. So it's a very subjective definition over there. But as far as the stability is concerned, I never found research to be less stable, especially when we're considering the financial aspect of it. Mostly because it's sort of a myth that you need a lot of money to get started in the initial stages. I personally have invested zero amount of money to start with research. Doing projects and then getting your work published, and all of that requires zero amount of money. I am personally going for a PhD, and that is going to be funded, so that is not a problem. I think where the thing comes from, the idea comes from, is that when people go for a master's, and obviously you have to pay for that. but I know a lot of people who are going for masters, and they are going to take a loan or something like that, which you can easily give back if you work for a year or two. So that's not really a problem. Financial stability is not important. It's just that the ways in which the money comes to you, through grants or through a loan in the initial stages, that might differ. That may look like an instability, but it is not really an instability. So I don't think people should really worry about that part so much if they're really into research.
Okay, thank you, Medha. So for our next question, we have what sort of steps did you take to secure a research internship and the projects under the foreign professors? And like, how was the overall experience? And how was it different from doing research at IIT Kanpur under a professor?
Um, uh, I'm going to answer the first question first, which is how I secured an internship under a professor at a foreign university. So first of all, I applied for a summer program. So it's a well-established pipeline. So you just apply there, then you get selected, you get a scholarship to visit the US, and then you get to do your project. That is a pretty pipelined thing, and I just applied there for a summer internship, and I got admitted over there. Obviously, it did not turn out because of the pandemic thing, but I did do the project in an online mode with the professor. Um, the second part of your question is that how is it different? I don't think it is very different, especially under the circumstances we are living in right now, which is the remote setup. So every week we would meet with the professor and have a meeting and discuss about what to do next, what are the ideas, what papers to read next, what kind of simulations to run. All of these things are something that you discuss with your professor on a weekly basis. It's not a lot of work at once. It's just small tiny steps that you have to take every time, and the process is pretty similar. Now in an online mode of things, where we hope that we get there pretty soon, but in an online mode that would be, I don't know, different in terms of the accessibility with the professor. So people who have worked with professors at IITK would agree to this, that there is more accessibility. You can knock on the professor's door at any point of time and have a discussion over that. I personally think that right now everyone is working with the same set of givens, and I don't think it differs much. Um, Another thing that I noticed while doing research was that with the professors at IITK, there is more of training aspect associated with research than collaboration. While when we are working with professors outside, there is an element of collaboration more than an element of training and mentorship. So here the professor would take on the responsibility, or the unsaid implicit assumption that they have to train you with certain things. Whereas if you're working with a professor outside, it's more of a collaboration setting where you're expected to know certain things, where you're expected to take the initiative and give ideas and work upon them independently. So that sort of independence and that sort of ownership is more required when you're working with people outside. That's what I observed over the past year while doing projects with people outside.
Thank you. So I was going through your profile and I was quite inspired by so many papers that you got published. So like, would you want to share with the audience like what all hard work and time you like invested, and like, so what exactly goes into producing work that is worthy of research, like worthy of publishing, sorry.
Yeah, the I would say that whenever you're doing some research, there are two different set of skills, and they are quite different from each other. First would be the area you're working in. Obviously, you need a set of skills to do research in that area. You need a particular set of skills to do research in material science, but you need a whole different set of skills to write a paper. and the amount of work and everything that goes into writing a paper is very different. You need to think coherently about your own research. You need to understand what are the implications of your research. You need to, because you need to convince an audience that your work is worthy enough, you need to convince yourself as well. And that is the sort of work that goes into writing a paper, to really understand your research. For example, when we are doing research, all of us are can be accused of using some ad hoc methods, some shortcuts. The code is not working. Let's make this tweak. Let's forget this outlier case. Let's do this, something like that. So all of us are can be accused of something like that. But when you are writing work to the world and you're telling the world about your work, you need to be very coherent. You need to convince yourself of your work, and that those are the niche things that you need to think about while writing a paper. So yes, there is a lot of hard work, and more than that, it's pretty enjoyable, because you really get a sense of what your research is, and that's pretty rewarding.
So, like a follow up to that, like a lot of students, they aren't really like aware of what their interest would be. So, how does one suitably find a field of their interest for research?
It's very difficult to explore everything because we are undergraduates, right? We can only work in the given, and which is not a lot. So for me personally, I explored a lot of different things. You wouldn't know that, but I explored various different things. I went into machine learning, I went into consulting, I went into robotics. I explored a lot of things. But then when I landed on something I really liked, which was through a course, as simple as that. I just did a course and I found the stuff interesting. I contacted the professor, asked her if she could give me a project in that area, and then things went on from there. So it's really, I mean, you have people doing different sort of things all around you, and I think it's just how much you are exposed to, and whether you decide to dip your toes into that particular area while you come in contact with the area. So I would just say, just explore and really think about whether this thing interests me. And if it does, just don't be afraid and start doing the work. Most of the people get afraid that, there is this understanding, that I need to be very brainy, or I need to know a lot about this field to do research in that, because not only am I doing a research, not only I'm exploring that field, I'm doing something new to it. So I need to be aware with the ground reality of things. That's not really essential. You need to just jump in and see what kind of things can be done there.
So one last question for you, Medha. So as you know, like there are around there's a 2 to 3 month gap between the SPO intern and a probable research intern. So what should one preparing for the research intern do in these 2 to 3 like months? And how does one deal with the anxiety of people around them? Like they start getting their SPO interns and other people start getting interns, whereas they're still trying to figure out what they want to do in a research intern.
Yes, certainly there are people who decide that they have to go into research intern and therefore they do not sit for the SPO internships. For me, that wasn't the case. I did sit for SPO interns and I secured an intern through SPO. But then there is a gap. So you come from the summer of your second year, and then you did right after it you are sitting for the SPO interviews. But after that, there is quite some time for preparing for your research internships. And I would suggest everyone whoever is thinking about going into this area to keep an inventory, to keep a list of things that you need, because sometimes the process might get overwhelming. I mean, there are 10 different programs and you need a statement of purposes, you need your resumes, and you need various different things. Different programs ask for different things, and I would suggest to really spend that time preparing all of these stuff. And for example, if you write a statement of purpose, get it checked by people, especially your seniors, and if possible some professors if they are up for it, because you are an undergraduate who's freshly out of your second year. You cannot possibly know what would look good on your on your SOP. So get it checked by the seniors and people who have gone through this process. They really know what rings the bell. And spend this time preparing for everything. For example, I remember applying for a DARD and my tax. You need to describe what kind of projects you're interested in, and or you need to write a proposal, and all of these things, they take time. So you have some time, like you have half a year, for example, until December or January to prepare these things. So I think instead of thinking, I want to explore an area and get an expertise over it, the time should really go on preparing for these things that are actually important for the process of application.
Yes, thank you, Medha. Dia, would you like to go on with Anish?
Yeah,
Anish
so
had a question.
now we have a set of specific questions for Anish. So, Anish, my first question for you is that your career field is very much different from your parent branch. Like, your research interest was in systems. So, how did you manage to get opportunities in it, and how did you manage to do your parent branch courses along with the area of interest that you had, and how did you build upon that?
Right. So yeah, it's pretty different, and I think I built upon it firstly through some coursework or essentially getting some background. It doesn't have to be through IITK courses. You can also watch video lectures, which I also did. And then if you like the area, take up a course or something like that. Then I took up projects in that area, research projects under professors at IITK, and then the opportunities started coming. So then I got the internships, and then I progressed. Then I made up my mind that I would like to do a PhD, and then I got the offers for my PhD. Now, regarding the second question, that is, how did I manage to do these? So essentially, taking courses from both CS as well as CSE as well as mechanical. Well, one important thing which many people overlook is template management. So IITK has provided a very standard template to every branch that you already know from first to through 8th semester when you join, or you may not know, but now you would probably know it, and you can play around with it. And obviously be very careful because you don't want to extend your degree or something like that. But there are things that you can do, and you can always ask your seniors from at least from your branch about it. And by doing that, you can actually take up a lot of courses. So I was able to take around 8 or 9 CSE courses in addition to whatever I was doing in mechanical. So that's a lot of credits. But you can do it by making sure that the template management is right.
That's great. And you did an intern at CAR3S, which is a research group headed by Professor Biswandhan Panda in the Department of Computer Science at IITK. And you also did research internships outside IITK as well. So how was research intern at IITK different from a research intern outside IITK in terms of experience and opportunities?
Right.
And were there any advantages or disadvantages of either of it?
Right. So I concur with Medha. At IITK, especially when you start out, I think the professors in general have the tendency to make sure that you understand the process before you delve very deep into it. And once you are able, after a few months, let's say, then they can actually hand you a very challenging research problem, or at least some part of a challenging research problem, so that you can do whatever you were trying to do, you may be doing outside IITK. So as far as at IITK versus outside IITK is concerned, well, everything has its pros and cons. So let me state one pro and one con of doing an intern at IITK, for example. The pro is, because the professor is also at IITK, you can, after your internship, you can actually take it up as a research project and hopefully get some results out of it. And by results in research, we usually mean publications. So if you can do that, because it's very generally quite difficult to achieve that in 3 months. So essentially you have to follow up with your professors outside as well. But as Medha stated, in these COVID times, it's pretty similar. But yeah, otherwise it would be a bit different, because being on campus, you may have an edge with the professor. Now the con may be that well, there may be many more areas that IITK or the current at some current point of time, the professor may not be dealing with that particular area, and you may want to explore it. So obviously IDK cannot have every single project out there. So that is one con, and it is generally a bit difficult to get internships outside IIT, especially if your parent branch is not the same as your research area.
And also, would you like to share like how did you secure your research internship at Intel Labs, and how was the experience?
Right. So one thing in research, which is I think very important, is networking. So I secured it through a combination of my skill set and networking. So essentially, I was looking out for internships, industrial research as well as academic research, and I got a referral from my from a friend of mine who had interned at Intel Labs. So they don't come for SPO internships because at SPO, because the pool of candidates who can do that sort of thing is a bit small, right? It's a bit specialized. So yeah, so I got a referral and I got through a few interviews, quite technical and obviously a bit specific. So you need the right skill set, and you need to reach out. People will not come to you with research internships, either academic or industrial. So you need to really reach out. And yeah, so, and how was the experience? Well, it was pretty good. It was a bit more academic, on the academic side, compared to like a whole like completely corporate intern, obviously, because it was an industrial research intern. So you get to read papers, you get to extend them, and maybe even have a publication out there if things go right.
Nice. And then also one thing that we know that we get two options to choose from, industrial or academic, during SPO. So can you explain like how choosing academic option is useful for research oriented folks?
Right. Yeah. So for those who don't know, SPO provides a choice between industrial preference or academic preference when you fill up for internships. So what an academic preference does is, in the event that you get, so let's say you secured a corporate internship through SPO, in the event that you want to pursue an academic research internship, you can waive off or safely cancel your SPO internship without any penalties, because SPO has severe penalties if you cancel your internships after accepting them. So it is also possible to waive off an industrial research intern. So for example, my Intel intern I also secured an internship through SPO, and because of my Intel internship, I rejected that later on, and that was possible without any issues because of the academic preference. So for people who want to delve into research and who want to really get into research, they can take the academic option, so that once they secure an internship through SPO, down the road they can safely reject it.
Also, like in 2019, you became the coordinator of the programming club, and you mentored 5 students and did an exciting project. So how did this new responsibility help?
Right. So becoming a programming club coordinator is more of a, I think, techno-managerial role than a purely research role. But since you are the coordinator, you can kind of define what you want to do with it. So since I saw the participation or the awareness about computer systems was low in the campus, I tried to increase that. So that's what I personally wanted to do. And so how did it build my profile? Well, essentially, I can talk about how I help students from a new perspective, or at least get to know more about systems, which is important when you are writing your statements for grad school, MS or especially PhD, because in PhD you would have some sort of an academic component, a teaching component. So it helps.
Thank you, Anish. So I would like Devaditya to carry this forward.
For Nikunj, and there's some specific questions for Nikunj. Nikunj, how did you secure a research internship at IIM Ahmedabad, and like overall, how was your experience? And it's like it's known that many people have successfully switched from corporate to academia, and vice versa. So why did you make your switch from corporate to research?
Right. So hi Devaditya, am I audible? Firstly, before I answer that question to all the people who are attending the session today, so many a time we attend sessions and then we forget about it, right? We don't take any actionable items, we don't write any key takeaways, and that will happen with a lot of you if you don't. I will recommend that after this session, just create a 4 or 5 point bullet, key takeaways. That will really help you, right? That will define your actionable items, and that you should implement in your real life all throughout for any class. So to go ahead with the question, so I basically applied for, I did cold mailing at IIM Ahmedabad. Really, I just mailed 20 professors. Three of them liked my profile and scheduled an interview, and the first one I got in. It was mostly related to public policy, and I wanted to explore public policy domain in extensive detail, and wanted to go into research, that what research usually do public policy makers dive into. And I did that. I really liked it. My work was later published in a journal, so that is rewarding, as Medha said, because rewarding has different return. And after so why did I switch to corporate? So I am of the belief that the more fields you try, the better decision you can make of what suits you, right? So I wanted to try corporate so that I'm sure that, so I can make a more informed decision of what I like. And so that is why I wanted to do a corporate internship, because just doing one internship and then diving further into it might, I thought that could lead, might not be the best option for me. I might like corporate more, and which I did. So after securing an ITC internship, I really like corporate. Like, there is an effort and reward relationship, and for me the rewards definition is more in the real world, where I can see my product launching, or seeing people impacting, or people buying my product. So I like corporate more. And really wonder, so I definitely love consulting, so I just thought, okay, why not give a shot at it. So the key takeaway would be, again, that try as much as you can, at least one. I would recommend to try at least research and corporate once if you can, and then take a call on what suits you more. If you really love, if you try your first hand at corporate and you love it, you find it amazing, then go ahead. If you don't want to waste time, go ahead, dive into corporate. But if you are not sure, it's recommended that at least in this summer, if you can ship or any firm internship, to try corporate or any research hands-on experience, that would be great.
Thank you, Nikunj. The next question is that, so you were deeply involved with the student Gymkhana for the last couple of years, and you even held the position of the Gymkhana president. So how do you think these PORs helped you both on the record, like on your CV, and off the record, as in gaining experience in your profile?
Right. So frankly, these positions will only help you, on the record when you are applying for management positions, right? If you are applying for coding positions or tech positions, they don't really care that you were the president, you manage something. So for management profiles, I think you should have some managerial experience. That really helps, right? That shows the, for multitude of reasons. I'll come to that. So first, regarding on the record, so definitely if you are applying for management consulting, you're applying for product management, they try to look what management experience you have had till now, right? And mostly, apart from taking up these positions, there is very little management experience or product management internship. That also helps, that shows that you can do that work. But in college, this really helps to show the recruiters that you can do management, right? You can take up a position of responsibilities. So definitely it helps on record. Second, so how it helped me off record. So I'll just, so there are 3 or 4 things you need to be good at, right, while you're applying for management positions. Any product management or consulting or any positions which requires problem solving attitude, right? Most of the internships or positions in management requires you to have an ability. So when you take up these positions, it's not just president. You take up any good responsibility position, you learn, you strengthen your problem solving skills, right? And that really helps. That helps off record as well. Then you can structure your thoughts and in a very logical and very coherent flow. So that is one. Second, you definitely you have a very high confidence, right? So many people are not that good in interviews because they lack this communication skills or soft skills confidence. So when you take up these positions, naturally you are more confident about yourself, right? You manage a lot of people, you talk to a lot of people, and you think you can help in your confidence. Third is you definitely your communication skills improve, and that is to all the people, all the Y19 students out here, communication skills are important, right? You try and build as good communication skills as you can, because it really helps. It basically helps you to put forward your point very nicely, so that the other person could understand easily. So this is third. Fourth is not that big, but it definitely helps in networking as well. So when you take a very high executive or very high level position, so you can reach out to people who have held similar positions later. So it really helps in networking as well. But I would focus more on the first 3 points.
Okay, thank you, Nikun. So I'd want to ask again. So you have mostly worked in finance and management domains, which are totally different from your parent branch. So what was your first encounter with these domains, and what drew you towards them?
To all the electrical folks out there, it's something very personal. It's not general. So I did not like electrical at all, right? I did not like Fourier, so whatever courses you study further, I did not like them. So I decided that there's no point going into diving further into this, because I'm not going to like it. I don't like the concept, so most likely I'm not going to like the future prospects as well. So I did not, so I decided that I don't want to go into electrical. So what all options I have? So I explored management consulting. I explored FMCG, and frankly, what drew me towards it was, honestly, before, so rather I'll just rephrase my answer so that it applies to most people. So there are multitude of very different kind of fields out there, right? Explore about the field first before you start applying. Don't just randomly email people or message people on LinkedIn that I want an internship, and it might be possible that you don't like the field at all, right? So first research about the field. There are plenty of good blogs, plenty of good experience profession. So go about these videos, think about what you like, and even if you have slightest of interest, right, then you can apply. Because then after doing an internship for 2 months, or doing an internship throughout the semester, then you can take a call, yes, I don't like it, right? But I personally was very very interested in management in FMC. So particularly ITC, HUL, PNG, these are probably the best management interns you can get at undergraduate level, right? During MBA or post MBA, you can definitely have much better interns, but during undergraduate, so I naturally applied to them because I like management. Then I applied to CRED after my placement. So that was mostly because I was for 6 months I had nothing to do, and then I decided, let's explore product management because it's a hot shot field. Let's see what's like, and I really like the concept they apply. Right. So I applied, I got in, and now I'm really enjoying it. So basically, for people who want to figure out what they want to do, just read about things, read about all the options you are available to you, and whichever interests you, just go for it. Semester long internships, you need not wait for your summer internships for for internships. You can do internships in semester as well.
So Nikunj, you are working at you're interning at a fintech startup, CRED. So uh, how did you get into that internship, and how is it like to work with a startup, and so how is it different from working with a big company like ITC?
So as Anish said, it was a combination of networking and skills, right? So in management also, there are different books, there are different models you need to apply. So it's always better to know about them. So I had contacted 2 or 3 of people who were working in CRED in product management. I reached out to them on LinkedIn, And they replied, I reached out with my resume, they were interested, I got an interview, I got in. So it was not a very exhaustive or complex procedure. And you can always reach out to people. Will not extensively publicize that much as it should be, because in other universities I know it is. So feel free to reach out to people on LinkedIn, right? What is the max worst thing that could happen? They would not accept your invite. That's okay, right? But if you're interested in any internship, feel free to reach out to people if you think your profile is relevant or you could do a good job. So then you apply. And how is it different from a corporate? It's entirely different, entirely different. So in a large organization like ITC, you have a defined mandate, right? There's a problem you need to solve. There is that, because there are several other people who are working on completely different things. But in a startup, the problem is very abstract, right? You can work on anything, because there is scope for improvement everywhere, and you can directly see your impact, right? You don't need to go to your your boss's boss and your boss's boss, and then need to hire executive people to finally see your impact. In startup, you decide that I want to do it, and then you can do it, right? So that is one very good pro. And from the learning perspective, the startups have a very steep learning curve, because you can read about it and you can experiment it directly. You need not wait for approvals to implement it. So the learning curve is very steep, definitely.
Um, now we'd head over to Suyash for his specific set of questions. Dia, could you please?
Yeah. So Yash, my first question to you is that, uh, like you have experience of both research, like you did a research intern at SERS, and you were also a research associate in the machine tool dynamics lab, and you also have experience of corporate, like you interned and now you are placed at ITC, and you also told that you were a software intern at New York office during your first year. So, can you give a brief overview of the various career aspects of core, non-core, and a research intern?
Yeah, sure, Dia. Hi all. Thank you, Dia, for inviting me to the session. So yes, I mean that was exactly the plan. As Nikunj and Anish and Mera also pointed out, it's always beneficial to try out fields and see for yourself what suits you best, right? Because obviously you can read about stuff, you can read about profiles online, and then you can decide what suits you. But it's always good to try out things, and that was also what I planned initially, and that was what I went with ahead. So, like right from my first year, I had a plan in mind that I'll explore. You work in any domain, you need coding skills, because that is what analytical skills I think are derived from. So that was the entire plan. And also I like software development, because it gives you a wholesome experience of how a product development process actually is executed, right from the ideation of thing to then coding it, and then finally executing and launching and even marketing that stuff. So I like the process, and that's what I had in mind. So I actually did some of the competition, some of the projects in the course. So again, it was not exactly a corporate intern, it was a project intern, I would say, and I worked at the Android development field there. So it was again a good experience. As I stated, I mean, coding is a product development process, especially software development, if I specifically say. And yes, that was exactly what it was. The intern itself was a good learning experience, and then I went on to build the application for a mobile application for Antragni as well. So I mean, that was an experience, and I knew that that this is something that interests me. But again, I was back to my plan that because when you're doing something for longer periods of time, you eventually get good at it, and then there is a lot more temptation to dive into that field and go ahead. But by the third semester, I also had my core courses coming in, right? So I knew that I had to explore my branch, my domain which I was working in. And then I switched on to basically more towards the right from my first year, and I continued doing that, and I took up some positions there. And the best part of working in SMT teams is that apart from technical stuff, you also learn a lot of managerial skills, right? So you need to look into budget aspects, you need to look into marketing, sponsors, and all that stuff that goes around apart from the technical stuff that you are doing. So that's one great thing. And I was also continuing that along with the research project that I took up under Professor Mohit Law. So I was working in the machine tool dynamics lab, and I joined the lab in winters, right in my second year, and I've been working since then, right? So I mean, that itself conveys how intrigued by I was by the work that they were doing. And it has always been learning a good learning curve for me, so I've never thought to shift away from that. So I've been doing that project over 2 years now. And I mean, yeah, as Medha also pointed out, research is rewarding. So like I worked for a long term, but then eventually I got rewarded in some sort of publication. But more than that, I think the work satisfaction that you get in research uh, is more exemplary than the reward that you get at the end. So and coming to that, if I talk about my corporate intern at ITC, so or to say technical intern at ITC, I mean, that's the difference. So I worked for 2 years in a research lab, and I worked for 2 months in ITC doing a project with the printing and the main difference that I feel is that at the end of each day, when you're doing research, at the end of each day you feel rewarded, because research is more about the process, the methodology that you put in. Even if you are getting good output, you always question the process, right? And sometimes it even is beneficial to get a deviated output which does not match with what has been reported before, because that actually opens up scope for some sort of publication, right? You are doing some groundbreaking research, that means. But in corporate, reflects good stuff. If you are not getting good output, you will be questioned. Nobody actually looks into what process you are putting in, because the output is far more important there. So as I said, the work satisfaction localized at the end of each day is more in research, right? But in terms of the impact that you create, I feel yes, I worked 2 years in the lab, and we got a research publication in a good journal, but I don't know how many people are reading it. Very few people are. I know the statistic of those who are citing. I don't know who will be using that in an actual industrial application. So the kind of impact is actually doubtful. Yeah, I proudly write that in my resume, but I don't know what the impact actually is. Because in mechanical, if you see, the industry is lagging behind the research. I mean, even if I expect any sort of industry to implement my work, it will be at least 5 years from now till they reach out to that position. But in corporate intern, I worked for 2 months at ITC. I worked on a project that that was budgeted around 70 crores, and at the end of 2 months, I for the corporation. So this itself, each day after the intern, it was not as if I was doing something great, because I knew that the 2 month period of the intern was actually a struggle for me. I was working remotely. I had no idea what was happening. I had no idea whether the work that I was doing will be something useful for for the firm itself. But yes, after the work is done, you feel that, yeah, the impact that you create in a corporate intern actually is bigger than, not bigger, but yeah, again, it depends on your perception. It's rewarding and different sense. And as far as the software field is concerned, you mentioned I did that in first year. So I always feel that coding is something which everyone should know, should learn. These are basic analytical skills. And if I talk about software development per se, then it's more of a solution oriented stuff, right? So after you have solved a problem, you want to make an app or a website or a software that actually implements that. So it's a solution oriented field, I would say, while core is a problem solving field, right? So you solve a problem, you solution, which is just uh, just a systematic methodology of what you have been doing earlier, right? But that's where the crux is, and I enjoy mostly problem solving. So that's why for now I have chosen core to be my field.
So you were also a Honda ES19 awardee. So how do you think that one's research work helps in securing such research scholarships, and it can also help to aspire for research internships or higher studies?
I mean, there are a lot of opportunities both in research and in corporate. Honda ES is one that I pursued. So Honda ES basically is a program that actually funds for either your research intern in the third year or your MS program afterwards. And it is funded by Honda, and they call out for applications around August. So the process is basically straightforward. You submit your applications, and then there are interview rounds that follow. The main crux is that yes, you actually get to do an intern in Japan, and DV, or basically the technologies that are mostly economical, right? So there is a field, entire field called eco technology, which they target. So they choose out students who are working in fields related to eco technology to pursue MS in the field ahead, and they actually fund for it. So that's the nice part.
Thank you. And so, like you said, that you chose corporate over research. So, would you like to share with the audience like some of the factors or some of the questions that one should ask him one decision of finally choosing between research and corporate?
Yeah, all right. So I think again it's very individualistic. You need to pursue a field and then decide for yourself what's working best for you. But yes, corporate has got an image of a boss and a corporate hierarchy that goes into that. And yes, it's somewhat true. It's either my way or the highway sort of stuff, as Bill Clinton puts it. That you actually work in a lot of constraint in a constraint environment. You have a lot of constraints at hand. You cannot, and uh, I mean, uh, but still I was lucky enough to get into ITC, and as ITC does it, they actually assign individual projects to each intern, and so you have a lot of independence, I would say, with still some constraints, but yes, there is independence to actually put your own approach, put your own innovative solutions, and solve the problem. And at the end of the day, it's the output that matters the most. So if you are getting the job done, I mean, people at corporate are happy, right? But that's not really the result. They'll still question how you got it, and you have to repeat it maybe twice or thrice to actually prove and verify that yes, the results are correct. So yeah, there are some basic differences, and as I already said about the work satisfaction, that's there. So yeah, I think these are the minor aspects that I have experienced from my own set of experiences or journey, right? And everybody can have their own perceptions.
So, the last question for you, Suyash, is like, how does having a recruiter, like, does it have a positive impact or a negative impact?
Yeah, right. So I think for me it has been a positive impact if I say it in one word. But yes, I believe BTech is an undergraduate course. Nobody actually expects you to be an expert in any field, right? You are expected to explore various fields and figure out what what suits you best. So I will encourage you, as Nikunj also stated, I will encourage you to go out, and it never harms to have various set of skill set in your resume while you apply for an intern. And I think that's the thing that particularly worked out for me when I applied for ITC, because I had some experience of working in the tech side in teams like in SNT teams like Robocon, Robowars. I had some experience of research. I had some experience of working on software development. So all combined, that actually worked out for me well when I sat in for ITC. And again, I'll quote one of my professors here. Foundation course like BTech, you should focus on learning something about everything, but also everything about something, right? So you need to be a good expert at one field, but at the same time you need to have idea of all the fields combined, right? And if I put this all together, I'll again quote the same professor, because his journey is quite interesting. He also did something similar to what I have done, and I have basically inspired my journey from his. So I'll quote him here, that actually after his graduation he did a 4 year stint into your corporate job. He planned to go for an MS and then a PhD, and now he's a professor at ITK. So I once asked him, I mean, what motivated him to actually pursue research after 4 years of working in the corporate sector, and he had a nice answer to that. So he told me that, so yes, 4 years are experience for a person to understand that nobody knows anything in industry, right? And then he also told that he has now been in academia for more than 10 years, and he has realized that nobody, but the difference between the two is that in industry people don't know, people just don't know. In academia people know that they don't know, right? That's the major difference. And I think, I don't know how this explanation helps, but yeah, I've just quoted him.
Yeah, that was great, Suyash. So let us now come on to the general questions, and I would like all the speakers to address these questions. So the first question that I will look I believe that it is very important to highlight the required skill set for a particular career path, because it helps us to know like what we should focus on building up. So what do you think are these skills, and are the skills which are the most crucial for succeeding in either a research career or a corporate career? Like what kind of person you need to be to succeed in either of them? So I would like any of the speakers to take up this question.
Okay.
Meda, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, so let's start with Meda first.
Yeah, obviously I can only talk about research because I haven't really ever done much work in corporate. But I think for doing research, there is a notion that you need to have a lot of, you need to be very brainy, or you need to know a lot about a particular field. Like I said earlier, to do research in it, to do something new in it. But in my personal experience, I worked with a professor at Duke University, and I worked in an area called optimization, and I was pretty much wary of the fact that I had never done a course in optimization, and I knew practically close to nothing about it. But then as I went with the project, I just, whenever I needed something, I could just go and take a primer on that particular topic, and I would be well equipped with whatever I needed. Yes, the example that could be coding, that could be basic mathematical skills, and all of these things. They are, yes, you need them, but when going to a new field, I think you can develop everything from ground zero. That should never be a factor limiting you. Secondly, if you are going this way, that you do not know a lot about a particular field, but you still have interest enough to know, two things are very important in research. First would be persistence, as I said, material with through 3 different papers and try to understand what are they trying to tell you, even if you don't understand. You need a continuous persistence. Most of the people who drop out of research is because maybe at some point of time the process stopped being very rewarding, or it got a little bit monotonous and all of that. And then that is quite true for other fields as well, but especially in research, the problem of getting bored or getting this feeling of monotonous, the stuff getting monotonous is very much present, and people drop out of it. So you really need the persistence. And second would be the project you're doing. Whenever you are working on a research project, especially with the mindset of producing some sort of publication, you are collaborating with the professor, because your name is on the paper as well, and therefore you are collaborating and you are not getting mentored per se. When you are collaborating, you need to have a sense of ownership. This is not a professor teaching you in a classroom setting and teaching your course. This is your work as well as him. So people do not mostly what happens is all of us as undergraduates, not something we own, but it is something, it is ours. And it's really important to have that sense of ownership, to really take up the thing and just hammer onto it again and again. So these are the two things that I found very useful in the past 1 year when I was at the peak of my research endeavors.
Thank you, Meda. Yeah, Anish.
Yeah, you basically said what I was gonna say. So perseverance or persistence, that's, I think sometimes research can be really rewarding, and every single day you will get up and find something new and be really, really thankful that you chose this field and so on. But then there could be days, weeks, or even months of time where you do not find new insights, you do not find anything essentially that will help you progress, and that can be very challenging to take on. So for example, in my so I have been with the Car 3S group for a couple of years now. I'm still internship there in 2019. I couldn't really achieve that much. I learned a lot. And there was a very steep learning curve, but I didn't really get anything. Didn't really progress in any way. So that was a bit off-putting. But I knew that I had a lot more knowledge than I did, a couple months earlier, a few months earlier. So I persisted with it, and I persevered, and that actually culminated in a research paper at the end, after about 8 odd months. So it takes the ownership, as Medha said, and the perseverance. Then you would have something like a first or second author paper, which can really propel your research, your novice research career. And it's also true that at undergrad nobody expects you to be an expert at anything, especially in your second or third year. So just don't be afraid to reach out to professors anywhere, inside IITK, outside IITK. The most you will get is no reply, right? Nobody is going to retaliate against you for reaching out. So just reach out, and if you like something, then try it out more. That's all I can say as a research person.
Right. Hi. Right. So I think it can, any skill set required can be categorized into two main parts. One is the core skill. Let's say, for example, if you want to go into coding, you need to know coding, right? And the second is the non tech or non core skills required. So I think for the first part, you definitely need to have that, at least some basic sense of it. That if you're, and you need to know, have a basic prereq of knowledge. Apart from that, the secondary things required varies a lot across fields. Let's say, for example, the type of skills you require in FMCG interns or consulting would not be the same as what you'd require in coding. Right? It's completely different. So for the first part, definitely, as I said earlier, first figure out what you want to do. At least have some basic preliminary interest in the field. Don't just randomly take up internships. I would not recommend that you just randomly take up internships you do not know much about. Study a lick up internships, then you can take up internships. And the best way to figure out what works for you is by trying, right? Anybody can tell you that these are the skill set I think are important, or these are the skill set I personally feel are relevant, but that is actually individual relevant, right? Because some things matter more to me, something else would matter to you. So the best way to figure out if this works for you or not is by trying. So definitely you still have 2 years left in your college life. 2 years is a lot of time, right? So you and then try. But for basic skills required, I think for undergrad level, if you have the core skills, at least basic prereq, you meet that threshold, then and you can get an internship. The rest of the skills sort of fall in line with it, right? So just take up, if you think that you meet the basic prereq skills, take up internships, try a stint, and if you do not like, then that's your call to make. I won't say that in corporate specifically there are these things which work, these things which do not work, these are the skills you need, because it's so varied. So just make sure that you have the relevant core skill or the core competent skills you need, and then just try it out. Suesh, maybe you can add on.
Yeah, so mostly I think Anish, Nikunj, and Medha covered it all. I'll translate more into how you can actually acquire these skills, right? So first of all, I think you should be a patient and a good reader, right? Because what Medha and Anish, I think, were pointing out to was doing literature review. So in research, you do read a lot of papers. You do if you're working especially in a technical field, there are a lot of jargons that you don't understand, and that's where you break your perseverance, you give up, right? So I think by being a good reader, you essentially uh, immune yourself to those jargons and basically are able to take out the main takeaway of the paper, right? You are clear with what you need to take out from the paper. You know, you don't need to go through each paper line by line, but you need to take out what you actually want, basically. Yeah, so the crux of paper, realizing and understanding what has been done. What I think, doing that and also building a good foundation and understanding the concepts will help you through. So learning any field, for example coding, or any software, for example if you come to mechanical, learning ANSYS or CAD or this or that is not easy. It's sorry, it's not difficult, right? It's not difficult, but if you understand the concept well, then this can be carried on ahead, right? So I think what we underestimate the most is the classroom learning. The curriculum at IIT Kanpur, the academics that we go through every day, is actually sense of uh, uh, basically the skill sets required to actually excel in any field, right? So if you're doing a course in mechanical, we attend labs, we make lab reports, most of us usually copy paste the stuff. But if you think it through, lab reports are a way to provoke your analytical skills. You actually read the theory and then perform experiment, get some results, and do some analysis of them and report some observations. Most of this process is skipped by a lot of us, which I think does not benefits if it not harm. We emphasized, like you should keep that up, and also as Nipun said, like study about different profiles and try out different stuff as you can, so that will give you an in-depth understanding of all these stuff as well. Yeah, on the outlook, yeah, that was all I wanted to say.
Thank you to all the speakers. Devadatta, you can ask next question.
Mm, yes, yeah. So the next question that we have for the panel is from your specific career path, and found that they differ from reality in either like a good or a bad way. Like some people usually have some assumptions about their specific career fields. So, like, are there any specific assumptions that you had? And what are sort of the challenges that you faced in your path? And did you have to make any compromises on the way?
Um, I'll take it up. Yeah, Anish, if you want to go ahead.
uh yeah, no, go ahead. I'll go after you.
All right. So frankly, 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 I think that we do. I personally do not have that much experience in the field that I can make a comment on whether this field is, what I expected it to be or not, because the corporate varies a lot, right? As you move higher up in the hierarchy, maybe the rewards I get change. But definitely, so you have when you see it from the bottom, right? You see things differently, right? But when you reach there, you really realize the reality. Let's say, for example, many people think that being a CEO is a very good thing, right? You earn in millions, you don't have to do a lot of work because all the people beneath you are doing the work. But that's actually not the case. You work 14 hours a thing. It's just that your work changes from doing implementation to rather ideation, right? So the work changes, but we always have different ideas about the job. So definitely the reality will change. But till now, after doing up 2 internships, I've done spent approximately 8 or 9 months only. So I find the field rewarding, but I think I would be, at least for the corporate side, corporate non-core, I would be able to make you can only make a judgment after you have spent 2 or 3 years into the industry. Research for, I think, has a different perspective because these people have been researching for quite some time. So
Right, from a different take altogether. One, let me take a concrete example actually. So as I was interested in research, I was a bit skeptical because I personally liked the way chips are designed, computer chips are designed, and architecture systems and so on. How to scale and how to scale a problem to work on 10,000 different processors and so on. That was my interest area. But I was looking at everyone else, and they were mostly focused, the people who are into coding and so on were because that's still uh, and it's obviously very useful, So one thing I had was one hunch I had was that maybe this field is not as rewarding as something like machine learning from a research perspective, from a whatever perspective you wanted to take it. So that is not true. If you delve into a field and you because research essentially is going deep into something, right? So, and if you go deep enough, you will find a lot of use cases which the industry wants to. Most of my internships have been actually, yeah, n minus one of my internships have been with the industry, Intel, Nvidia, and Qualcomm. So what I found out is it's not so much about which field is fashionable or which field has the most takers. It's also about supply and demand, right? So as long as there is demand, which there usually is for most things that you can take up in undergrad, then don't worry too much about it. Too much about, okay, I'm not doing machine learning and maybe I'm missing out, or some XYZ other thing. Use it myself for some tasks, right? So it's just that have confidence in yourself that yeah, I like it. I can make something out of it.
Hi. j- uh, just to add to Anish, I had and like Suyesh pointed out, you are always wary of the fact that whether my research would actually make some kind of impact in the real world or not. It happens that people do some kind of research, research in theoretical aspect of the field or the methodology. It happens quite a lot that the research gets just buried under the archives of a particular journal and really does not come into impact in the real world. But one thing that I found out in my field particularly is that there is a huge scope of impact, and there are people who are taking the research that they are doing out to the real world and helping in creating in a very particular basis. So there are already methods existing in let's there are already statistical methods existing that people in machine learning use quite often. But often there are problems that are very particular to an area, and these problems require some innovative solutions. A very good example would be this COVID-19 situation. So research in epidemiological statistics requires very particular solutions for this new problem. And people are there who are working in application or in statistical applications who are building on ground level. People who are like professors at universities or researchers in these pharmaceutical companies, all of these researchers per se are working in collaboration with your organizations like WHO and building solutions, new solutions that could be implemented in the real world. So this is something that was a lack of maturity on my part. Let's say when I started out with research, that research is about building new things, but that does not necessarily guarantee it's the application to the real world problems. But that is not entirely true. That is true, but that is not entirely true. There is a lot of research that is happening in statistical applications, which is also what people call modern statistics, because modern statistics talks about application-based solutions. So this is something that I found really interesting. I kind of can work in both the areas at once. I can do my research that I find interesting, and I can also have an impact factor on the world. So that was
Yeah, also from a student's point of view, I would like to add this because I think most of us feel this way, and I also did. Whenever we take up any task, be it research or whenever we start doing a project with corporate or some company, we like every time I felt that it was a task that I would never be able to pull off. I mean, when I started off with my research project, I remember I was given some initial 10 research papers to read from, and I read 3 of them, and I took 6, and I was like, okay, this is out of my hands, right? So it feels like the people who are working have a lot of experience, and hence they are able to do this. But this is something which is not my cup of tea. But I think you just need to persevere in there. You need to give yourself time, and things get a long way. I mean, you start understanding things, and things happen, right? So even in corporate. I mean, I remember when I got my ITC problem statement, the intern's problem statement was to reduce the cost of some engineering inventory by 10 crores, 70 crores. And I thought that this particular division of my company is been in existence for over 90 years now. People have been coming, working here, and they have not been able to pull down the cost by this much. And they're expecting a third year undergraduate to come in, do a 2 month internship and achieve this impossible task. So I actually thought that this is something which is not achievable. I'll do my bit and I'll set off. But actually, we underestimate ourselves at such point in time. We feel that peers or CEOs of certain companies are really, doing something very different, but it is not that. They are normal people. They are normal people who have evolved out of the students like us. So I think we need to have some confidence, and that's a very basic part of the question, I guess. But yeah, something that I wanted to add on.
So there's a question like, if you could start all over again, would you like to change anything in your career, and you would like to share with the audience that you should like not do that, something like that?
No. I think all the experiences I had, I explored industry as well. I did an internship in a startup. It was important. It was useless for me, honestly, but it was important because it made me realize that I don't want industry. I explored various different topics. I explored everything. All of that is to say that everything made me realize that I don't want that. So I know accepting a field is important, but negating a field is also very important. So I wouldn't change anything.
Will any of the other
I
speakers
think I
would like to
mostly
add?
agree with Medha. I think I mostly agree with Medha. All the stuff that I did is good as well. I think actually helped me in negating that field of my vision. Also, now that I have done all my academics and I've finished with the last sem, I feel that right from the first semester, I could have focused more on the acad part, right, which we usually neglect in trying out all this different stuff. But I think I don't want to change that. I just want to convey the message that that is also important and can be kept in mind.
Right. So
So yeah, so I was actually going to say my branch change was probably a bad idea, but well, in hindsight, it you are a first year, right, or whatever, first, second semester, third semester, fourth semester, right, and you wouldn't really know what's ahead of you. So what I'm trying to say is, I am also not really that unhappy with anything I did. One thing is, learn to say not sure of whether you are going to like something, or at least you know that you may not like something. So I'm also talking about projects, or even internships. Like, if you are sure that you may not want to pursue that, learn to say no. It's not going to have like a very negative impact. But yeah, essentially I wouldn't change it.
right. So I think I'll add one point. So I will not like to remove anything. So definitely whatever I did. So
You're
it's not.
muted. You could.
Am I still muted? Hello. Right. So I would not like to change anything, because in hindsight, things always, we always think that I could have done this or done that. But one recommendation I would like to give, that I think Anish also said it earlier, that definitely try to understand your template and play around it. Right. Our IITK template curriculum gives us a lot of opportunity for semester exchanges, or play around with electives and other things. So definitely explore that first. And second is also, just don't wait for summer internships. Right. Many of this have this academics है, और कुछ क्यों करना है फालतू में. So just play, have fun and focus on your academics. But I would also recommend कि semester के बीच में भी, if you can take up internships. If you think you have the bandwidth, you have free time, then you can explore that as well. So these would be the two add-ons. But right, I love my journey, so
Okay, thank you, Medha, Suyash, Anish, and Nikunj. So this is a very informative, and I'd like to open the stage for questions from the people in the chat. So I'd request people to put out their questions in the chat. Meanwhile, there was a question that was we had floated a form, and there was a specific question that came through. So I'd like to echo that here. So the first question is basically, uh, how do people with a poor financial background move? She has to give money to his family for financial support just after completing their BTech. So this came from an audience. So it's partially like explained by Medha, but I'd like want the others also to give their opinion about it.
Let me take that up. So yes, in MS, you will probably have to take a loan. And if you really need to provide financial assistance to your family just after your BTech, then maybe a relevant job for a couple of years and then move on to something like MS when the financial condition is a bit more stable, because IITs have pretty good jobs. I mean, yeah, that's one thing. Secondly, if you are really into research and you want to take up a PhD, then I think it depends. Some programs or many good programs in PhD will pay you enough so that you can save a little bit. And when you are saving a little bit in dollars, that can translate to maybe a little bit more in rupees, right? If you are saving 5,000 or 7,000, $8,000, that translates to a few lakhs. So if I'm not, and then again, obviously that depends on case by case basis. But if you're going for a PhD and it's funded, then maybe you will be in a bit better shape, unless a lot of financial assistance is needed.
Just to add something to what you said, while you're doing a PhD, you also get a quarter or a summer semester, and a lot of people take internships pursuing their PhD. So especially, I can say for the US, there if you get an internship during the summer, they pay you quite nicely, and you can save a major chunk of that and provide for your. Apart from that, for the MS situation, I understand the situation is a bit bleak, but for that, basically, this is what people do. As Anish said, they take up a job first and then go for an MS. I think those are the only two options that I'm aware of.
Just one point, some research labs provide residency programs for mostly undergrads that are quite competitive. But if you get into that, then you will have essentially a job for a couple of years, but that would be very much geared towards research and would actually propel you to maybe even better universities that you could get out of your undergrad. But that is very limited and in very specific fields. So in general, I wouldn't count on that.
Also, one point that there are some scholarships also available. I mean, there are a few scholarships for MS. There are more for PhD programs, I guess. But as Dia asked me earlier, so Hondex Award is, for example, a scholarship that actually funds your MS program in Japan in the desired field. So you can look out for these scholarships as well if some additional financial assistance is required. Also, there are some PhD programs that in which you can actually get selected and then you can take 1 year. You can defer the program and come back and rejoin the program or enroll yourself then and there. So these can also be a couple of options.
So there's a question from the audience. It is from Naman Gupta. Like, how exactly do we get to know about the various academic internships or projects outside our own institute?
Medha, would you like to take that?
I'm sorry for the delay. Yeah, for outside your institute, I mean, the cold mailing is one of the option. It mostly does not work out. It works out in some cases. It did in mine. But again, because it was a remote internship, because the problem is mostly about the funding. So the professors outside, even if they like your profile, they are mostly unable to take you as an intern because they cannot fund are quite impossible in most of the cases. Um, but I think the question is, how do you get to know about the various academic internships? I personally, I just went through all the summer internship programs that are hosted by different universities. So I know for sure that there was one for Duke, and I got a list of different programs for the summer internships that are there. These are all funded. So they give you some $2,000 per month. For this, mostly these programs that have, because they have this pipeline of funding and there is a project structure to it, therefore it is best to keep them as your first priority. For example, my tax, different universities host different programs. So I started looking out for these programs very early on and started applying to them, and eventually I got into one of them. But cold mailing is also one of the things. It works for a few professors. I know of friends who have had funding through some grants and could therefore fund the visit of the students. So it should be a collection of all these things. Framing up an email does not take up a lot of time. So just keep on doing everything that you can. I think that helps best.
Also, just keep a tab on your emails as well. OIR has um, sends out some emails for some programs, not definitely not an exhaustive list, but something for things like DAD, Charpa, few others, and some and quite a few semester exchanges as well, which is not essentially useful for research, but it can be in some cases. So look out for that as well.
So, Yash or Nikums, do you want to add something?
No, I guess I think
I guess we
that's
can.
all.
Just a small point. I think, as Mira said, cold mailing does not work for a lot of people, but it worked for me. Like IIT Bombay and Delhi, so a lot of students get academic internships, right? As compared to IIT Kanpur, because they are not hesitant, or they are very actively working towards it. So here I have felt for many students of my batch who were interested in research did not really put their heart into it, right? Because SPO internships are a very easy alternative. You get it, they come to campus, so you can just give interview and take internships. So if you are interested, just put your heart into it, right? Talk to as many seniors as possible who have got internships. They could probably refer you to their internship and how other people do. So whatever you're doing, put your heart into it. Just though, like as people say, दो नावों पे पैर रखने से तुम कहीं एक जगह बहुत ऊपर नहीं पहुंच पाओगे. So whatever you're doing, put your heart into it, so that you get to know what all are the different opportunities available.
So there is another question from the audience. It is from Alok, that how much role does CPI play if we want to go for MS or PhD after graduation from ITK? So,
There are two factors. First of all would be your academic performance, and secondly would be your experience in research or projects. So one of the two has to be strong. So if you have a very good CPI, that is wonderful. You should have some work, but if you don't have a lot of work, that's fine. If you do not have a good CPI, then it is quite essential, especially when you are applying for a work and they are funding your thing. You're not paying for your MS, you are getting money for doing a PhD. So in that case, your research work should be good. So don't worry if you do not have a lot of a high CPI, but then work towards building up a good profile. I think there is a follow-up question. Good CPI is about, this is a very subjective question. I don't know. I had a CPI of 8 point something, 8.9 while I was applying for a PhD. I definitely did not have a CPI of 9 and 9.5, 9.6, which many people do while applying for these things. But I did get some offers, and yeah. And if you have anything in the line of 8, that's fine. 7 is also fine. I don't know. It's a very subjective thing. It depends on the department you are in.
Pretty much, it depends on a lot of things. Yeah, same boat as Meda. So CPI close to 9 or just above 9. And see, the CPI, when people have done. Now, if you have 2 research papers in top tier conferences, a couple of good research projects and so on, and if your CPI is 8.1 or something like that, nobody really cares, right? Because you have to showcase that you can do work. Sorry, you can conduct research. You can conduct yourself in research in some way or the other, right? CPI is one way to do that. CPI says if you have a very good CPI relative to any branch, right? In math, I think anything above 9.2, 9.3 would be a very good CPI. In CS, 9.5 maybe, right? So have a good hold over yourself and you can conduct yourself. There are other ways to do that, and I am pretty sure and I am certain that selection committees look into that. I know a few people who had a CPI of somewhere like 7.5 who got offers from like comparable PhDs that we are doing, Mida and I are doing. So it's not just about CPI, but obviously try to have a good CPI. Like that's not a substitute for saying that okay, let me just stop worrying.
Yes. Also, the professors under which a student is working, I mean, they directly refer to like their colleagues outside working in other universities, and so in such cases, the letter of recommendations from certain professors also play a vital role. So, if you have like good research work, as Anish pointed out, like a good research work and a good referral from a reputed professor can also do wonders for you, even if your CPA is not that good enough. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you can continue.
No, I think the research folks are much more capable to answer this. So I have not applied for a PhD, so I cannot.
Okay, so there's one more question that I personally resonate a lot with. It was asked by Rashmi. So how much time does one have to explore before deciding what they want to pursue, and when is it too late? So I'd like to reframe this question in my own perspective, that uh, there is this exploit and in reinforcement learning if people are into machine learning. So uh, the basic idea is how much to explore before you decide you want to exploit and gain in-depth knowledge into a particular field.
Well, explore as long as you aren't satisfied with what you are doing. If you are satisfied, try it a little bit more. And if you go into some depth and you still like it, so for example, moving from a graduate course onto a research project, that may be one level of depth. Moving from a research project may be yet another step. And if you still like it, then see, as undergrads, you would have 10 different options, right? There are many different fields that are not represented here, right? You can try for civil services, you can try for an MBA, you can try for go for n number of different things. So you have to find your mojo, and if you have found it and you have went through these steps, right? I think it's all right to exploit it, or go deeper into it. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Right. So I think the question is also very centric about, when you before you graduate, people want stability, right? People, when they go out, if when their degree is ending, so they would have to they would like to have something in their hand which they like, or which is stable, or which I think they can get used to. So I think for me personally, it depends on individual to individual. Some people are willing to take that extra step of risk. Some people relatively want stability. Semester, or by the starting or ending of 7th semester, before the placement, you have clarity. that is definitely an add-on, because if you then, after 7th semester, if you decide that you want to go into corporate, right, then if you have not prepared well enough for placements, that might be a blocker, right? That might be a bummer. So it's better if you have, a little clarity on something by the end of sixth semester, or by the starting of 7th semester, so that you can take that call. But even if you don't have, that's completely okay, right? Many people do differently. Fits all kind of formula here. You can have something very different that could work. People could be on the extreme and that could work. But for me personally, I wanted to have little bit more clarity by the end of sixth semester or 7th semester starting. And also, having said that, even if you get placed, right, you can in the meanwhile also you can apply for research internships, right? It's not like that after you have got a placement you'll need to go to that company, right? So even in 8th semester, if you decide that I want to go into research, then you can try management consultants who have just lost all touch of academics, then after 2 years of consulting went to do a PhD in computer science. So people do all kind of stuff, right? It's never too late. But for people who want more stability or don't want to take that risk, I think 7th semester could be a good enough time.
Yep. Also, I would like to add that it's not really about having a plan. It's about rolling with the opportunities. I mean, if you ask me, I had a tentative idea of what I need to do, which area. I had a plan that I would do this and these things, and to land up in this job or in whichever position I am today. So it's about the opportunities that I got, and just utilizing those opportunities and keep rolling on to the next set of opportunities that you get or that open up, right? So for example, if you ask me, I still haven't registered whether I'll be pursuing this job that I have, or whether I'll switch in research. I have back of my mind, I have this thought that I'll switch into research, but I'm still exploring the right point to do so. So out, there is no ideal timeline, but it never hurts to have a tentative set of things, tentative set of plan, a tentative plan that you can, you can tread through these 4 years at ITK. Because if you think about it, there are a lot of opportunities. It's so much talked about at IIT Kanpur. You can do a lot of stuff. So prioritize a few things, I would say, and see if anything suits you. If not, I mean, yeah, just keep rolling with the opportunities that you have, and then make sure that then choose a path that does not block any opportunity from that set, right? So yeah, just keep yourself insured and have a vision in mind, and that will be sufficient.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers. So there's one last question that we like to address. It is from Vedant. Like, how to gain knowledge or skills for jobs and internships, as academic curriculum doesn't provide much, and also tell us certificate important.
I'd like to just add on to this question. So, a lot of time, as Anish mentioned, that you can study a particular subject that is probably, say, not taught at IIT Kanpur, but you can read about it externally. So, in situations like that, how do you know that your knowledge about a particular field will be verified? Like, what are the ways to ensure that people are aware that you?
Well, um, so for example, my branch, right, or my field of study is basically relevant to what I am doing in terms of work and research, right? So the way to make people understand that you know something is to talk with them, right? And obviously, you may not get the chance to do that all the time, but in research, at least, the way it works is you apply to someone, right? Or the cover letter that you send them, right? That has the ability to showcase whether or not you know your subject matter properly. And if you try to copy paste from somewhere, or just try to talk about high level stuff without even getting into any details, probably people will understand that you are bluffing, right? So try to be honest with yourself, and when you are writing these cover letters and so on, I'll share a quick anecdote. Okay, So I got shortlisted for core companies in mechanical, right, ITC and HUL for interviews. But in interviews, they could realize that, well, my interest is not really in the core, right, and that I'm just doing it because I want a good backup essentially. And I didn't get selected in any of them because they could see it. So essentially the point is, if you are good at something, if people will understand and realize that. If you are not good at something,
Yeah. So actually, I think I'll differentiate this question into two parts. One is the core skills, or basically things you can learn in courses, or it's relevant to academia. But I'll focus more on non-core because I think I've worked more in that. And this is the sort of field where actually this questions get amplified a lot, right? Because you don't learn anything in IITK about product management, about management consulting, or any of these stuff which actually these people require. So here, how do you show that? So the somebody will be taking your interview, right? So there are always two steps. So before I even start, so firstly, nobody expects you to be a perfect management consultant or a perfect product management at your undergrad level, right? Everybody knows that you have not worked in the industry for 5 years and you cannot be a subject matter expert. But so every field requires a different prereq, right? There are always two stages. First is resume shortlisting and second is the interview, right? So you just need to pass that first step. If you know that you are good in that stuff, then you can, all interview will ask questions according to that, and if you know, you'll be able to crack it. For the resume shortlisting, it's completely different for different non-core fields, and I'll recommend that you reach out to people. Let's say if you want to get into management consulting or product management, you can always reach out to people who have done those internships. They'll tell you that how to prepare your resume to get it shortlisted, and after that it's just about, on the second stage, it's just about showing if what you have learned. You'll always get an interview if your resume is shortlisted. So I think it's not that big of an issue with what people think, because read books, watch different, study different courses, watch different videos, you can crack the interviews, and that's what really matters.
Right. Also, if you are planning for, if you are planned or are planning for a certain profile or domain in which you want to get in, then I think it's always beneficial to look into profiles of seniors who have been working in that field and see how they develop those skill sets, and maybe reach out to them or talk to them. I think this is the best resource that you can have at IIT Kanpur. Also, I think LinkedIn, if you are trying to connect with a person who is working in that domain, you not only, learn from his profile about how he went about what he did, but you can also connect and talk to him, and that can open up further opportunities for you in that field also. So I think that sense of presence on LinkedIn can help, and talking to seniors and looking and reviewing the profiles of seniors who are working in the field that you wish to get in can also help.
Yeah, I think I have a good personal anecdote that I can share with you. Um, I, I was quite interested in statistics from early on, but I wasn't really sure whether to go towards it with a research point of view or through its applications in industry, basically ML and statistical modeling and all those things. So right before my SPO internships, I came to know that some of the finance firms have a really good application of statistics, and therefore I started looking for profiles and I did not have, I could not possibly show them that I know anything about finance or quantitative finance per se. But what I did was talk to seniors who were already doing such internships, and just talk to them about where to study from, where to get the basic knowledge and whatever is required there. I took a summer to learn about that. And in the interview, right in the interview, I could convince them. So this really works. Like, just talk to people who are already in that profile and ask about the resources and basically educate yourself. I think if you are doing it honestly, if you have an honest understanding of that area, you can convince the people in the interview that you know about that stuff. I think that is required. You don't need it on paper. You can mention it as your technical skills or something like that, but you don't need anything on paper per se. You can convince it in an interview. So that just worked for me.
Adding on, so I think I just forgot one point. So if you really need to validate something, that whether you know this or not, reach out to people, right? If they take a mock interview and you're doing good, then you can completely validate that I know this, right? If you need a final validation before the interview, do go for a mock interview. And most of the time your seniors, one senior or another, will be able to help, will be willing to help you out.
Guys, one point which I wanted to put across, but I kind of forgot, was, as Nikunj mentioned, right? We don't really focus that much on networking, especially through platforms like LinkedIn. Everything is virtual. I think it is really important for all of you and all of us also to at least have some sort of a profile that people can look up online, be it LinkedIn, be it your personal website, be it anything, so that people can readily see what you are up to, right? So be active on something, right? Something like LinkedIn's, maybe some other forum. I'm not aware of what else, but and try to reach out, because it does not have that good of a reach when at least when it comes to LinkedIn, because yeah, that's what I have observed. So just my 2 cents, that please be active on some sort of a networking platform, so that this is, because essentially in these virtual times, this is the best way to network.
And just a clarification, so Instagram and Facebook are not networking platforms, right? So it's LinkedIn and professional stuff.
Yeah.
To everyone. So, we would like to conclude the session now. It was great listening. It was great having you here on the panel, and it was a very good discussion. I personally learned a lot from this session, and I hope everyone else did too. Are there any? Would all of you like to close with a special remark, as a closing remark that you might have for specifically for the Y19s and the Y20s who are here in this session?
I think Y19s are at. I can understand the qualms and the problems and the things you might the uncertainty that you might deal with, because second year, I can remember my second year, I was dealing with so many different things. I did not know what to do at all. I did not even think that I would do research. I had no plans for doing research. I was quite against research, in fact. And and if not research, I did not know where to go. So during this time, but I'm sorry, that's my dog. But it does get better. You start getting more clarity. I would say spend your summer very constructively. It's the summer of your second year, right? So some of you will be doing internships, some of you will not, but use the summer very productively to create skills to, for SPO internships, some might want to practice coding, some might want to do some another thing, read about finance, investing, whatnot. Do not worry if you do not have any field decided as of yet, but try to learn new things, and hopefully you get an intern. And it's never a one-all thing that you get everything in front of you in one go. You start with steps, you do something, you like one aspect of it, then you proceed to the next step, and it always happens in steps. It will not come to you at once. So just keep exploring.
Definitely summer. So as Medha said, summer is one of the most important part of your college life, because especially for Y19, this summer will be you'll be preparing for an internship. So definitely prepare. But on the other side, I like to just state that it's okay to have an existential crisis, right? It's okay to not know what I want to do. I don't have anything figured out. There are so many expectations, so many, everybody says कि तेरा तो कुछ तू तो चाप ही देगा, तू तो कुछ कर ही लेगा. So it's okay if you don't know something. With time you'll figure it out, right? It's try to keep yourself motivated. Try to think, try to figure out by talking to people, right? The best way you can help get knowledge is by talking to your seniors who have been through in same stages. because they have experienced this firsthand. They were in similar stages. They tried out something, did not work. They tried something else which worked. So keep reaching out to people. Do not hesitate. The max it could happen is they won't reply, right? But that, so the opportunity cost of not reaching out to senior is that you don't get to know. So feel free to, if you don't know what to do. Personally, I don't even know till now that whether I want to pursue management consulting in future after 3-4 years or not. But it's okay, right? You can figure out, you assuming that life is long, you still have a lot of time to figure out what really excites you.
And keep working, and like keep exploring opportunities. I think that's what also Medha said. Just make sure that you have a plan. Me, I think, was in first year I made a resume to apply to the NYU intern, and I figured out what were the things that I was really lacking, and what sort of, because this is a career oriented session, I'm talking about this. So like visualize and have a vision basically of what sort of resume, what sort of profile you wish to have at the end of maybe fourth year or third year, or when you are sitting for internal placements, and then think about how to get to that profile. And yes, and in between, if you have any doubts, there are obviously seniors, and there are a lot of resources that you can refer to, and like that will be fine. It's not so tough. Everyone lands at their own perfect places at perfect time.
So yeah, so guys, believe in yourself. You are in an IIT. Obviously, don't be complacent about it, but things work out more often than not. So don't be afraid to try out things. And whenever you are in doubt, there will more likely than not be a senior who reach out to everyone, right? Reach out to your seniors, reach out to potential recruiters, reach out to professors, and so on. And yeah, just believe in yourself and believe in what you are doing. And if you are into research, then obviously persevere a bit as well. And obviously, great session, academic and career council. Really, I think this was really well put together.
Right. So I'll
Good-
add
good
just
job.
one more line before I also congratulate you. That in these actually virtual time, it's very important. Don't just eat yourself up because you are alone in your home. When people are in hostel, they reach out to their friends or somebody, and somebody can always know what's happening. Right? You can always reach out to your roommate or the person in the next room that's saying, "Yaar, mere dimag mein chal raha hai, what should I do?" Right? So even in the virtual scenario, talk to people. Talk, if you're not comfortable with your batchmates, talk to seniors, talk to people, so that they know what's going on, and you can have better clarity. And now I'll congratulate, thank you NC Council for putting this up and inviting us here.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah,
Nikunj.
thank you.
Thank you, Ayush. Thank you, Suyash. Thank you, Anish. Thank you, Medha. This was indeed a very, very good session. Thank you for being here, and I'd also like to thank the participants for being such patient listeners. This was quite a long session, and it extended a bit. I apologize for that, but this was a very good session. The recordings, we have recorded the session, and it will be available to the people who were interested. There were some doubts in the chat about the recording. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye
guys.
bye.